What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and we just hit 5,000 subscribers. It's insane. And I just want to give you guys a big thank you. This has been a wild summer. We were barely even at 1,000 subscribers going into like June. My goal was 2.5K by week 1. We crushed it. We doubled that. 5,000 subscribers. If you asked me maybe like 3 months ago and you told me I'd hit 5,000 subscribers by like the Super Bowl, I would have said I'd be happy with that. And the growth we've seen is crazy. Now, I'm going to go on and on here a little bit. So if you really want to just the fantasy content, you're not an OG, basement mafia member, somebody that is really, really rides for this channel, rides for me, feel free to skip ahead. There's timestamps on this video. But I just want to say thank you guys so much, man, because this has been huge. YouTube in general has been huge for me. Literally a year ago, we hit 100 subscribers going into week 1. Then I kind of got lost in the middle of the season because I was doing a lot of schoolwork. And it was tough. And if you guys don't know, I went to 2 years of community college, and the plan was to go transfer to a 4-year. Obviously, I'm here. I didn't transfer. I'm 20, and I took the jump to not go to school and to chase to chase things on YouTube and see how things went. And, I really did bet on myself, and you guys, it's super humbling that you guys made that pay off, because, I could have. If I actually was going to school, I wouldn't have grinded so hard in the summer for it. And there's a lot of people that doubt me, man. There's a lot of people that are out there, you should go to a 4-year. YouTube isn't really a real career. Fantasy football isn't a real career. You don't have enough subs. So hitting 5,000 subscribers is a really cool number because you guys made it happen, and it's now a big enough number where people will be like, oh, you're not going to school. It kind of makes sense that now you have 5,000 subscribers. And I just want to say, when I think about, the kind of the branding of this channel and kind of what we're doing here, I really like this idea of, betting on yourself, because that's through and through who I am. I will always bet on myself when my back's against the wall. When anything is going on, I will always bet on myself. That's what I did. I took a semester off from school. I'm taking semesters off from school. I'm betting on myself to make things work on YouTube. Now, we're not even close to full-time salary. We're not even close to part-time making money, but we're laying down a foundation. So in, a year, 2 years, 3 years, I can actually make a living out of this. And I'm in a spot now where I don't have to have kids that I depend on or rent to pay. So I have a luxury right now to build the foundation for that. So in a few years, I will have this down the line and possibly be able to do this full-time. And I think the idea of, betting on yourself ties into what I do in fantasy as well. To my core, I will always bet on myself, and that is what hero RB and zero RB is. The conventional way is get your stable running backs and lock in a good floor. No, I'm going to swing for ceiling. I'm going to pump my running backs, and I'm going to make it work. I'm going to beat your Christian McCaffrey team with my Tyreek Hill team or my wide receiver heavy team, and I will figure out the rest on waiver wire. I will bet on myself. I will swing for maximum upside. And I think it's cool, man. Even if this YouTube thing doesn't work out, I think at the end of the day, it's dope that I can at least look back on these videos and say I did it. I went out there, I tried to do it, because fantasy football and just sports in general are my favorite because it just brings people together. That's really what it comes down to. And I don't like just fantasy football. I love college basketball. I think eventually I'll kind of, the channel will get big enough so that I can kind of branch out into things I really enjoy. Fantasy football is easily my number one, but in the offseason, I do like college basketball. But I just wanted to get that off my chest. Let you guys know kind of where my head's at. Say another big, massive thank you for 5,000 subscribers. Again, I couldn't, if you told me 5,000 subscribers 2 months ago, I would have said you were crazy. In the early August, I was pretty down bad. I was thinking we weren't going to see a lot of growth. It's almost football season and we're not really seeing the numbers tick up. We're not even hitting 1,000 views per video. Did I make the right decision not going or staying home from school? And I still won't know the answer to that. But we're really putting a foot in the right direction here. And I just want to thank you guys. Now we're actually going to get into some football. I don't really know what the whole point of that was, but I just kind of wanted to, have a talk with you guys, because I don't want to have my relationship with you guys through this camera be strictly X's and O's in football. I want you guys to know who I am as a person. There's so much about me that you guys still don't know yet, and you guys are going to learn over time, whether that's through different kinds of content, vlogs. I want to be a little bit more creative on the channel. And I want to be a little bit more personable. I don't want to just be a talking head that talks just football. I want you guys to actually know me and, just have a bond that's stronger than just football, But Anyways, we're going to actually talk some fantasy football today. I don't know how long I just talked for. We're going to get into my must starts and sits of the week at running back. Let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I mean, I know I'm pretty cool. My nitty babe.
All right, so my first must start of the week is going to be Aaron Jones at home against Detroit. And this one's obvious, but let me give you guys that confidence to start Aaron Jones this week. We're not panicking on the Packers. The Packers, they play this style of football where they dare you to win on the ground. Their run defense is bad, and they have Jair Alexander. They have a lot of good, pass coverage pieces on that defense. So what they do is when we know that passing is plus EV in football and running isn't, if you set up your defense in a way where you can force the other team to run the football in most situations, it's actually a pretty good strategy. But when you have a team like the Saints, who have a really good offensive line and Alvin Kamara, it's not going to work. And the Saints just said, okay, you're going to let us run. All right, bet. They had just chewed the clock, beat them 38-3. And the Packers only saw 17 plays in the first half. And the second stringers then in the back end of the fourth quarter, they accounted for 31% of the entire offensive snaps for the entire game. So you can literally throw that entire game out. The game script was wacky. They threw in the backups. But the Detroit Lions defense or defensive line, all that, they are bad once again this year. They allowed the fourth most fantasy points to opposing running backs last week. They were the worst team against fantasy running backs last year. And the Packers are playing them as an 11-point favorite at home. They're going to get all of their aggression out from losing against the Saints on the Lions. They're going to kill them. They're going to have positive game scripts. Aaron Jones is going to be a very good start this week, like a top 5 running back this week. He's going to have a great game script, soft defense, everything you could hope for. And then we have another obvious must start, and this is going to be our last obvious one, but I just want to, give you guys the confidence to start your studs. There's a lot of people out there that are wild. I've seen things like, should I start Najee or guys like Leonard Fournette? Let's take a breather for a second. We're starting Najee. This needs to be Najee Harris. You're starting him. Let's breathe. Let's give these guys a couple weeks to really settle in here. And Najee's really in for a nice bounce back week here. He's playing the Raiders at home. He just got 100% opportunity share, and he played against a tough D in the Buffalo Bills. When you get the Raiders now, it's much softer. They're going to be at home. We know the Steelers play better at home just because Ben Roethlisberger does. And they are allowing the 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. And last year, they were top 5 in that stat. So I just think Najee Harris is going to get all of the work. They're going to be in a good game script, and he's going to just absolutely chew the clock, tear up that defense. It's going to be a nightmare. Also, I didn't really go into the format of this video, but we're going to go over 5 must-start running backs and then 5 must-sit running backs. And this next one's going to be Kareem Hunt at home as a minus 12.5 point favorite against the Houston Texans. The game script is going to be beautiful. They're going to sit on a lead all game, and this offensive line for the Browns is going to maul. They were PFF's number 1 ranked offensive line last week, and they have the biggest offensive line to defensive line advantage according to PFF. That's a stat that PFF has where it takes into account offensive line, defensive line, and then how much of an advantage that team has. And I'm still kind of new to this stat, and I don't know what the percentage means, but they have a 138% advantage. The next highest is a 78%. They're going to absolutely murder that defensive line. And when they're going to be sitting on a lead and chewing clock all game, I think we see Kareem Hunt see about a 50% snap share, maybe more. They might even let Chubb rest in like the fourth quarter. So I think that Kareem Hunt in this matchup is a firm RB2 for me. And then we have Darrell Henderson, and I think that he might have had the most encouraging usage from week 1. As a guy drafted as like a fringy RB2, there was a lot of uncertainty with the Rams, Sony Michel. Sony Michel came in, Sean McVay traded for him. Everything was kind of up in the air with Darrell Henderson. He kind of goes back to that dead zone running back territory. And Sean McVay was like, nah, this is our bell cow. They went out there, fed him 94% of the snap share, 17 of 18 running back touches, and he ran routes on 78% of the dropbacks. He was used in all phases. The run game, the pass game, all at a high rate. He is a bell cow in this offense. He is getting Todd Gurley type usage. So I'm starting him regardless. This isn't even a crazy matchup. He's going to be at Indianapolis. They're actually pretty good against the run. It's not a crazy good matchup. It's just when I see that usage, I will be playing him as a firm RB2 every week. In this last one, I want to let you know, if you paid that premium price, that king's ransom for Elijah Mitchell, you better be starting him. If you're a 0 RB or hero RB team, which I hope you are if you paid up for him, then you need to be starting Elijah Mitchell. He handled 19 of 21 non-Raheem Mostert carries last week. And Sermon's going to be active, but I don't think it's going to hinder Elijah Mitchell that much, at least in week 2. I think that Elijah Mitchell is still a fringy RB2. And once you get past the guys like Kareem Hunt, Myles Gaskin, Miles Sanders, Henderson, Mitchell needs to be started in that range. He also has a pretty good matchup against the Eagles. The Eagles are a good unit on the defensive line, but I think that they're actually a better defensive line against the pass than they are the run. The San Francisco offensive line, according to PFF, has the second best advantage from run unit to run unit in terms of O-line to D-line, right behind the Browns. So there's going to be wide running lanes. I think we see Mitchell get around 15 touches, and that's going to be startable in fantasy. Now, I also want to let you know this video is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. We talked about them in the summer. It is going to be our leading sponsor for the entirety of the fantasy football season. And I want to let you guys know, we were talking about their best ball platform in the summer, but I actually want to dive into, especially with this Thursday night football game on tonight. They have a really cool over-under contest on their site. They have up to 17 different over-under props. And if you get 2 right, you can 3 extra money. If you get 3 right, you can 6 extra money. If you have 4 right, you can 10 extra money. And if you get all the way to 5, if you get 5 of these over-unders right, you can 20 extra money. They're pretty much player props where you guess over-under their receiving yards, their touchdowns, fantasy points, all that good stuff. And if you use my promo code RON when you deposit $10 or more, you receive a $10 bonus on top of that. So if you put $20 in and you get 3 over-unders right, you can turn $10 of your own money into $120 in one night. And I'm actually so jealous of you guys. You guys out there that are in states that offer this, I get the best ball contest, but I don't get the over-under contest in New Jersey. I'm still waiting on that, but I'm still going to give you guys my picks for the Thursday game in case you want to hop on there and use them, because I put a little bit of research into this and I'm taking all the unders in this game. We have a 41 point over under. The Vegas point total is one of the lowest of the week. Taylor Heineke versus Daniel Jones is going to be an absolute garbage show. I love Logan Thomas under 49.5 receiving yards after only 30 last week. Again, this is going to be a low scoring game. Then I'm also taking Sterling Shepard under 65.5 receiving yards. I think one of the best things you can do in a contest like this is when we have a guy like Sterling Shepard absolutely blow up last week, his line's going to be inflated. So I think 65.5 is a little bit too much for Sterling Shepard. It should probably be somewhere in like the 55 to 53 range. And then the last one's going to be Darius Slayton under 3.5 receptions. I know he saw 7 targets last week against the Denver Broncos, but I'm not convinced that he's a high volume wide receiver, nor do I think Daniel Jones can even complete a pass to him down the field. So go 6 extra money with those 3 on underdogs. Pick them. Use my promo code RON when you deposit $10 or more for a $10 bonus. Now let's get into the must-sit running backs. And first up, we're going to talk about Myles Gaskin at home against the Bills. And Gaskin was the RB21 last week, so he probably didn't kill you with only 12.6 points last week, but I'd be trying to avoid him. This is clearly a committee, even more so than it was last year. In his 10 games that he played last year, he never saw fewer than 61% of the snaps. On Sunday, he only saw 54% of the snaps and saw 14 of 25 touches. So this is concerning. Now we have the Bills, who just held Najee Harris to 5.9 points on a 100% snap share. So then we have Myles Gaskin, a worse running back, on a 54.5% snap share against a tough D in the Bills. I'm personally just not into it. I don't see how he gets even over like a 10-point game. Then we have Tyson Williams, and I know a lot of people are going to be tempted to play Tyson Williams after he put up 18 points last week, and that looked great. But if I had a better option, I'd be looking to bench Tyson Williams. Tyson Williams, he looked good out the gate, but he had some, botched read options, some botched pass protections, and he started ceding reps to Latavius Murray late in the game. Latavius Murray ended up out carrying him on the entire game. He had 13 snaps in the fourth quarter on OT, while Tyson Williams only had 6. So it seems like Latavius Murray is a little bit more trusted in that offense. I also think this is going to be almost an even split. And then you also have reports from Harbaugh saying he wants to play Le'Veon Bell, Devonta Freeman. I think they put in a claim for Trenton Cannon. So it's just going to be a 3, 4, 5-headed backfield. And then they're also playing Kansas City at home. So that's going to be a game where there's not going to be a lot of positive game script there to run the ball. And if Max Crosby get this offensive line problems, which he did, that Raiders-Ravens game, Max Crosby ran wild on them. Chris Jones up the middle is going to give them even more problems. So if I could pivot off of Tyson Williams, I would. And from that same game, Raiders versus Ravens, Josh Jacobs is now going to be playing on the road in Pittsburgh, and I'd be fading him at all costs. He put up 2 touchdowns last week, which really buoyed his 16.5, 0.5 PPR output, and he only had 12 touches. He had 12 touches to Kenyon Drake's 11, and he was banged up all game, coming out for some toe injury, or I don't even know what's really going on with him. He had a report come out today, and the injury tagline was everything. Everything was his injury. There's everything going wrong with Josh Jacobs. It's insane because now he plays a top defensive line in Pittsburgh on the road, and he's genuinely like a back-end RB3 this week. In my weekly rankings, he's probably going to be like a like RB 35, RB 34. He is not a solid start this week at all. Now, someone who had a disappointing week 1 is Mike Davis. He only put up 10.2 points for an RB 32 finish last week, and now he faces a really tough matchup on the road against Tampa Bay. And if Zeke could only put up 5.9 points against Tampa, I don't see how Davis is really startable as a firm RB2 in this game. Tampa Bay is minus 12.5 at home. They're going to absolutely beat up on the Falcons, and it's going to be a tough game script where they're going to be behind all game. Now, for me, Mike Davis is an RB3 this week. If I could move on to a different RB2 and flex a wide receiver, I would. And in this last one, we're going to talk about James Robinson. He busted last week, and he's in this weird committee. He only saw 64% of the snaps and split touches 50-50. He saw more of the routes and the targets, whereas Carlos Hyde saw more of the carries. And I think that we're seeing Urban Meyer actually use James Robinson how he wanted to use Travis Etienne, and then use Carlos Hyde how he wanted to use James Robinson. So James Robinson is now getting all this passing game work and gadgety stuff, and James Robinson, that's not his build. So this is a very weird fit for fantasy. It is maybe interesting down the line if he can get more touches from a Carlos Hyde, but they have Denver this week, who's a very tough matchup. Denver was the 8th toughest defense against fantasy running backs last year. They now have a healthy unit on that defense, a very solid defense. They gave up the least amount of fantasy points to opposing running backs last week. So this is a very tough matchup for James Robinson. I'm trying to not start him if I can until Urban Meyer kind of shows that he has a brain or that he can make rational decisions. And that's going to do it for us today. Now, if you have one of these players on this list and another guy and you don't know who you should start, I have weekly rankings exclusive to the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. It's literally just 5 months. You get my weekly rankings. You get my weekly fab guidance. It's a cool, it's a literally a mini article where I talk about all of the waiver claims, what percent bids I would put on all of them, all of that good stuff, some fantasy advice channels on the Discord, on the Patreon. So make sure you check that out if you want to see who to actually start and sit. I just want to highlight my favorite starts and sits of the week in this video. Now, with that being said, again, thank you so much for 5,000 subscribers. I don't know if I'm even going to leave in that rant that I had in the beginning. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. Now, I'm going to go eat some dinner. I'm going to go edit this video so you guys have it for Thursday morning. And that's going to do it for us today, man. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Cause it's so crisp. The most brokest gold stockbroker when I source this. I could win an Oscar. Russian accent, horse Acid addict, cross the avid actor.